starting to talk to Sister about taking over your pest control, one thing that I brought about was, you know, have you heard about bed bugs lately? Everybody's heard about bed bugs. It's the most popular item in the news. And the pest control companies love it because there's people getting very rich off bed bug control. We don't do a lot of it. We do some. If there are clients, we'll do it. It's very labor intensive. It takes a lot of time. And just to kind of put it in perspective, if we were to do bed bug work in this room, let's say this room alone, we'd be looking at probably 3 guys, half to an all day. That's how labor intensive it is. What we would have to do is we would have to pop every ceiling tile, and we'd start looking all along these edges because they love getting in these little cracks and crevices like that. Curtains, they absolutely love those little folds in those curtains. Every single time I've done a bed bug job, there have been bed bugs in those little deals right there. Every single one of them. And then what they do at night is they come down off those curtains and they get on your body and they feed. And that's the way they make their living, is they eat blood. They have to have your blood to successfully live, breed, and multiply. This is what the animal looks like. The best comparison I can give it is that it looks like a watermelon seed with legs. And the way we can tell this is a bed bug is by these antennae segments. There's another bug called a bat bug, it has real long hairs and shorter antennae segments. And the way this bug feeds is right here at the front, it's got a little proboscis, a beak here, it's got a little beak. And whenever it, I'm sorry if I'm ruining your meal, whenever it feeds, what it does is it injects a little bit of anesthesia. So right before it bites you, it's giving you a dose of anesthesia, and then it pierces your skin. And it's got a tongue that comes out of that beak and reaches in and sucks blood out.
Okay, we're never sleeping again.
Yeah. Well, that's the way it feeds. And that's why a lot of people never know they have bed bug infestations until it's too late. Because they can breed really quickly, which we'll talk about. They're resilient. They can survive all kinds of weather inclinations. They can't survive heat very well. You'll hear a lot of people talking about treating with heat on TV. And that is not the only way to get rid of them. It's a little bit quicker way. It's in a very, very expensive way, but it does work. You know, a job like this room, if it were 3 or 4 of us, it'd probably be $1,000 to come in and do it. Because we have to take everything off the walls. We have to take the drapes off. We have to take phones apart. They love getting the phones. Think about it. They're cold-blooded animals. That's warm. Just like an alarm clock by the bed. The alarm clock by the bed generates heat. They get in them. See it all the time. They get in everything in a house. It is unbelievable where they will go. Popcorn ceilings, love it.
Oh my God.
They love living in the popcorn ceilings. Whenever they're small and teeny tiny, let's go through that real quick. Bed bugs belong to a group called true bugs. And they go through, we have 2 types of metamorphosis that most insects go through. One's complete, one's incomplete or gradual. And that's what this is. What they do is they lay this little egg. This egg is like a cask. And it's only 1 millimeter in length. It is like a speck of dust. They'll lay those eggs in little rows, or they'll attach them close to one another. If you're really trained and you know what to look for, you can find them. You would probably never be able to find them unless you spend a lot of time looking. But if you look at it, look at the first stage larva, or I really prefer instar. I think that's not that great of a word, but this instar is 1.5 millimeters long. When it hatches or emerges from that egg, it's clear. Why is it clear? It hasn't fed on you yet. Alright? So it's very teeny tiny. And I tell you, finding these by sight is virtually impossible. That's why a lot of people use dogs. They have bed bug trained dogs that can smell them. Smell them out. Believe it or not. There's crews that go around. A guy shows up with dogs. He's got 2 or 3 dogs, and they go through and do what they call clearing themselves. So they'll go down the hallways, they'll go in every room, that dog can go in, go in the next room. If it alerts, they go in and treat it. No, they try to find the source. And if it's one little nymph like this, you're looking at almost impossible to find. Every time they molt, they must take a blood meal. See, every single time, takes a blood meal, then molts. And then it gets to this adult stage, and they're only 3/16 of an inch long. Now you can see them. As I was telling the group earlier today, I've been doing pest control for 17 years, and it takes a lot, I mean a lot, to give me the heebie-jeebies, all right? Nothing grosses me out for the most part. But the very first time I saw bed bugs was in Evansville. I was at a hotel. The guy calls us, and I'm like, let's take the headboard off the wall. And for a brief second, I sat in stunned silence as these little black flecks fled across the wall. You can see them. If you travel a lot, that's the key. The headboards, 99% of them will come off the wall. You know how to take them off. Look behind the headboard, in the nightstands, and on the bed. And there's some examples of that over here, and there's going to be some, I didn't want to completely gross you out with everything, so I left some out. But
I
you
think we
can,
should pass them around.
you can find them. Yeah, if you want to pass,
You guys
just
have
pass
your
those around
posters?
real quick. You can kind of
If
get
you
a
want to
look
look, go ahead. It is kind of gross.
of what they look like. So,
But that's what I want. I think it's important because that's what we would see here.
you can see the blood
First.
spatters. And
If
you're
we
going to,
had them, that's what we would see.
yeah. And you're- and-
My husband worked with this guy a couple months ago, and he kept getting a rash.
Mhm.
And it kept getting worse, and they didn't know what it was, and he was a traveler, and he stayed in a hotel, and they
Got
said
bit,
that's what
didn't
it
he?
was.
Yeah.
He had to go to the hospital.
Sure he did. Yeah, because he was allergic to it. Some people react, some don't. Yes.
I have a question, this might be weird. Is this bed bug in a family of like lice or anything?
It's a little different. It's not the same family. It's actually in what's called true bugs. Okay? It's a little different. Same concept. Lice are easy to get rid of. But this will bite you many, many times and get blood to lay their eggs. Okay? They just get all over you. They bite the tar out of you. Okay? So some of the key points is that it does require a blood meal every time it molts. But here's the kicker. One female, I think the best estimates that I've seen out there are 300 to 500 eggs per female. It's a 1-to-1 sex ratio. So if 300 emerge, 150 each, male, female. Okay? And in 30 days, under ideal conditions, they can be breeding, doing it again. So in 60 days, you can see how many insects can accumulate. If you want to see something wild, go Google, YouTube, bed bugs. You will see things that you do not believe could exist. They got one apartment, I can't remember, it's like apartment 704. If you can find that one, it's something along those lines, you will flip out. Thousands of bed bugs are feeding on these people. There was just, when you go into bed bug infested apartments, it's been a long time, you can just see where they splattered them against the walls. By the hundreds. Here's the crazy part about these insects. They can survive months. The nymphs can survive months without a meal. And that's where people screw up. They say, well, we won't occupy that area. Well, guess what happens? They start traveling. Or they just sit there and wait. They've got nothing but time. Okay? These insects will respond when a blood meal comes in. The way they respond is you come in, body heat, carbon dioxide, you emit, they find you, they bite you. They're nocturnal. You get bitten at night. If you wake up and you have linear bites on your arm, some people never react. Although they say the more you get bitten, the more you react. In fact, the first picture was Harold Harlan. He used to work for MPMA. He has a basement full of bed bugs. That's how he feeds him, himself. That's how he keeps them alive. And he doesn't really react. Some people react like crazy. But if you see linear bites, like on your back, on your arms, where you're laying, because you got to think about the bed bugs got to come up to you, feed on you, and go away. That's the way they work. But they do it at night. They do it about 2 o'clock in the morning. is about when they do it. They do hide close to feeding sites, but they will travel. They'll move from room to room to room to room to room if they go unchecked. Pretty amazing animals. Here's the good part. There is a good part. They don't transmit disease like ticks, fleas, flies, mosquitoes. Most dangerous animal in the world is a mosquito. By far. It kills more people every year than any other animal on the face of the earth. Everybody worries about tiger sharks or great white sharks or lions when it's the mosquito that wipes you out. Mosquito-borne disease are terrible. But bed bugs, for some reason, they do not, in their digestive system, they do not have the ability to carry disease and transmit it. And someone earlier said, yeah. I said, well, I think they would be able to do it, they would have done it already. You think about it, if it's a host that's completely dependent on one species, is it in their best interest to wipe out that species? So I think they've kind of, over time, evolved in that manner. Here's how they get brought in a lot of times. Backpacks. Very common way they get brought into places like this. Schools, workplaces. Right now, your office buildings in New York are getting infested. It doesn't matter whether it's the nicest, fanciest place on the planet or you live in squalor. Bed bugs are non-selective. If you can get them on something, that you're going to bring them home. Used furniture, I would say, is the biggest mistake people make. If you ride around with a bed bug crew, I got a buddy in Jersey, I got one in Cleveland, Ohio. All they do, they got crews that run around. They have 3-man crews every day, all day long. All they do is bed bug work. How they do it, I don't know. I'd be bored to tears, but they'll take a mattress, they'll mark it up, they'll rip it, they'll paint it, they'll use it, they'll put placards on it, they'll throw it in the dumpster. They go out and look, and it's gone. People are grabbing them and using them. It's free. That's how they get in trouble. So, you know, they're taking these things back in heavily infested with bed bugs, and it's causing all sorts of problems. But they will hide in all these little mattress beads, all along the headboards, all on these seams, plus box springs. On box springs, we turn them over, cut the bottoms off of them, and treat them inside the box spring itself, put the cover back on. Then we encase them. That's one of the best ways of doing it. You can buy high quality bed bug proof encasements. You don't know you're sleeping on them. They're not like the old rubber things you used to sleep on, you know. They're very comfortable, very good product. But used furniture is the likely way that you get them in. Some of the items, you know, clothing. If you have items that you suspect and you worry about, if you have access to a dryer, you can throw them in on a medium heat, high heat. It's got to get to 120 degrees, 10 to 20 minutes. It kills them. That's one weakness of a bed bug, is they are very susceptible to dehydration. And that's why you see all the people talking about heat on TV as being a great way of doing it. It is a pretty good way. I can't knock it. It's very, very expensive. You can do insecticidal treatments. People ask all the time, how come bed bugs have become so bad? If you think about it, there's many third world countries. You know, they're really not third world countries. They call them developing nations. I'm sorry, that should be the better word to use. Have issues with bed bugs. How hard is it for someone to hop on a plane, fly to India, China, wherever, get out, do their work, have their luggage, set it in a bed bug infested room, they climb in it, that luggage goes to the airplane, gets put back on, flown over, lands, and you bring them home. Or people immigrate in. That's one of the reasons that you get bed bugs. The other reason is because of the way we treat. Earlier I said you won't see our guys bring silver cans in and spray the walls. And the reason we do that is there's lots of exposure issues. But back in the early 40s, there was this product called DDT. Bed bugs were a big issue in the United States until DDT came along. When DDT came along, bed bug issues were gone, non-existent. About 1996, 3 or 6 is when they started showing up in Minneapolis and New York. DDT almost knocked them off the face of the planet. Then And then, along came, the way we change our treatments. We don't come in and spray everything anymore, and that's been advantageous for the bed bug. The other reason is the products we use are very safe. Most of the products that we can bring in here, I only have 2 products at my facility well, 3 products I'd be really, really concerned with I would never use here. Most of the other products are extremely safe. Low toxicities, but low volatility. They are not effective against bed bugs. In Mexico, they can still use a lot of the products that we can't, and they're having great luck controlling bed bugs. We can't use it here because it's not approved by the EPA. Then bed bug mattress covers, they work really well. If we do a bed bug job and it's a residence, they have to get bed bug covers. Have to. If we were to treat a room like this, like I say, it'd be nothing to spend a half a day, maybe a full day in here tearing things apart, trying to find the bed bugs, trying to eliminate as many as you can. With that,
I have a question.
Yes.
So, perfect.
Yes.
So like with our infants, we do have mattresses, you know, in the infant crib, so should we, I mean, I don't even know if we can cover them.
That's the whole reason I wanted to talk to everybody today. That's why I brought it up when we first talked. It's awareness. It's making yourself aware and being cognizant. The number one way to prevent bed bugs from ever coming in here is prevention. If you have bed bug suspected items, you can see the adults. As you start digging around, you're going to find them. If you suspect them, you need to get them out of here as fast as you can. If you can prevent them from coming in, it's a lot easier than trying to get rid of them. And I'm going to send some stuff to Sister that talks about a lot of what we talked about today. You can print it out, distribute it however you want, but it talks about prevention of bed bugs. And that is the key, in my opinion. Now, if you get them, we just have to deal with them. It is not easy. And it's not the typical treatment. We're going to come in, and this room is going to be treated. It's not like, you know, if we have cockroaches, we come in with a little bit of bait, you could do it with the kids in the room. No one would ever know. Wouldn't hurt them, wouldn't do anything. But this, no way. You'd have to have everybody out, we'd have to have the room isolated, and we'd probably end up doing it, you know, after hours. Would be my best time to do it, or before hours, one or the other. After would be best to let it dry. Not that it's that dangerous, but we just don't want to take the chance. Any other questions about bed bugs? I'd be glad to answer if you do. There's no silly question out there. All right. That's all.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Yes.
What if a person was to find them in their home or apartment, but say they can't afford to have them taken care of? I mean, is there options for that person?
You know, I've dealt with that. I know. No, that's a very good question. I mean, that's a very, very good question. Because I've had to deal with that. Because I've had people call me, I feel terrible for them. They're like, look, I'm living on fixed income. I don't have the revenues to be able to afford that. There's no one that I know to point them towards. I just apologize. From my standpoint, I know that we can't offer them anything. I don't think there's any assistance from, I mean, look at the governments are cutting. I don't think there's going to be much assistance for that type of work. So, no, there isn't a good answer to that. You know, private companies like myself, we are bound by business. And, you know, when you're talking about 2 or 3 guys out all day long doing a job, probably using $100 worth of chemical, you know, you probably got $500–600 labor in it. I mean, bug guys aren't getting, a lot of them are getting wealthy as can be because they own everything. You know, they have guys out there doing it all the time. But when you look at it, most of us make 10–12% profit margin. So $1,000 bucks, we're gonna make $100–120. You know, so we're bound by that as well. That's a good question.
Well, you know, because I wondered, you know, if it was really expensive and people who couldn't afford it to get rid of it, they're gonna spread it. You
Right.
know what I mean? They're gonna,
Right. A lot of times, and you know, I've had 2 or 3 cases of that very thing, you know, and typically, this is the way it goes, is a landlord comes to me and says, oh, you know what, sorry, I can't help them out, you know, I don't have a lot of money. I'm like, oh, but you're willing to take their paycheck at the end of the month, aren't you? You know, so I'm like, you know, where do you balance?
see, I'm in an apartment, and they have a pest control that comes, supposed to be every month, we see him twice a year maybe. And he comes in and he might squirt 2 or 3 times here and there, and he's in there, I swear to God, he walks in, walks out.
30 seconds.
Exactly. So I'm just wondering if something like that would come up, you know, they're not gonna put the bill.
Well, typically what apartments do on that particular situation is apartments they are responsible for it. If it's managed by a property management group, they are responsible for that too. Well, not really. A lot of the contracts are being written now where the apartment owners are excluded from that because, quite honest, the apartment building was the one that put them there. It's like roaches. We don't do a lot of apartments for that very reason. Fingers start pointing, you know, people are like, oh, yeah. And then unfortunately, that technician that's spending 45 seconds in your apartment, the reason he is because they're not charging appropriately. And that's all the time he has, and he can say, yes, I went in there. It really truly is. We don't do a lot of apartments for that very reason.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, our sister from Aurora, for coming down.
Thank you for having us, let us know.
Yes.
So there isn't like any preventative spray that you can like go and spray your house to
No.
keep them from coming in there?
No, there
Or to,
isn't.
you know, keep them at bay?
No, there isn't. No.
Where do you get the med
You can go online. I always, you know, Allerzip is the best one that I've ran across. It's ALLERZIP. You want to make sure they are truly bed-proof, and you want to make sure they're accredited by someone. And the key with those covers is when you put the zipper together, there's a zip strip that comes with it that you zip it down with. There's, you know, and you don't want to rip that cover, whatever you do. And the box spring covers tend to be cheaper. I always tell people to buy the best quality you can buy. If you look at a couple $100.
So if you got those, now do those, you put them on to prevent them? What if
No.
the mattress already has them in there?
I would not put them on them to prevent them. I would put them on after you have them.
Oh, okay.
See what I'm saying? Because that way they can't hide anywhere. If you gotta, it's just like I tell people on a building like this, there's millions of American cockroaches living in the sewer. Our job is to keep them out out in the sewer. So let them have the sewer. We don't want them up here.
Right, you're not gonna get
If you
rid
can
of
plug them and fill in hose and keep them where they're coming in, you got them. Same thing with bed bugs living in a box spring. Let them have the box spring. They're not deep. They can't bite through it. So encase it. Done.